going on, guys? You ever had a sticky reel that you're trying to work it and it just, you know, it just won't spin? So today we're going to take a look at the sticky reel and how to fix it. So here we go. First thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to unscrew this top part and get the spool off. There she is. And we'll be able to take the spool off. Oh, here we go. We've got all kinds of line jammed up down in there. So we're going to want to grease it, remove that line. We've got some Eagle Claw reel grease and some reel oil. And we're going to take all this stuff off. It's coming off pretty easy. Don't really need a tool. Once I get it peeled back so far, there is a little plastic grommet and a tooth that we're going to want to set aside and make sure that we don't lose. Free and clear of line, but she's still sticky. So we're going to have to dig down a little deeper. So now once we've loosened this nut up, which mine was able to just use a nut driver. This is a ultralight, so you might have a bigger nut on there and you might have to use a wrench, but we'll take that. We'll set that to the side as well, make sure that we don't lose it. And now we can get into the guts of the reel here. We can just pull this off, and now we can actually see our bearing, which is what we're going to oil and grease. Take a little bit of the oil and we're going to try and get it on the spindle that is around the bearing here. And that right there alone will probably already, yeah, it's feeling better. So then we're going to get some grease and get it down inside of the bearing. I'm going to work that in there. Nice and packed with grease. Start spinning it a little bit. She already feels a million times better. Now we're going to go ahead and take the screws out to be able to get underneath of the bearing. Now again, we have some more tiny parts, 3 screws. We want to make sure that we set those over to the side and we do not lose them. Now we are able to get down underneath of the bearing. Now the big part that's making this reel stick is actually all the way down at the bottom, the teeth right here that turn on the crank. So we're going to get some grease down in there. We're going to shove that back down in there. We're going to kind of spin it a little bit, get that grease moving. Oh yeah, there's a night and day difference already. We'll also pull the bearing up. We're going to set the bearing aside. We're going to do a little oil underneath of the bearing on that shaft. We're going to start putting her back together. We will start by simply putting the bearing back on. Then we need to put the bearing cover back on. It has 2 grooves. And those 2 grooves match with these guys. So we'll make sure that it is in the right position and slide down. There it is. And there's our 3 screws. We've got to put the spindle back on. So you can see it's got square sides on one side. So it only fits on there one way. Now before putting this on, actually, the plastic, you know, a lot of times will have grit and grime inside here. So you might give this a quick wipe down. Just a quick little wet rag. Try and get any sand or dirt that has accumulated inside there. And now we'll put it back on the reel. Now we're going to go ahead and put our main nut that keeps this on. So get that on there. Now make sure when you put this nut on that you don't do it too tight as well, because that can contribute to the reel having a hard time spinning. So now we're going to put on our little gear spindle. And then we want to put on our little teeny plastic rubber grommet. And now we can put the spool back on. And we can even begin tightening the top back onto there to our drag setting. And we'll take a look at her. So she still has a little bit of a stick when she starts. And then it gets pretty clear. So one other possible solution is the bearing that is inside of the actual handle shaft. We just simply, on the other side of the handle, unscrew this guy. Set this to the side to make sure that we don't lose it. The handle will begin to come off on the other side. And we can see, oh yeah, that we've got some bearings in there. And those have some old gnarly grease. First, we're going to give it a little clean out. And once it's relatively clean, then we just go ahead and we give it some brand new grease. And then we will begin to put this back together. So first we will put the handle in one side. It is square, so it will only go in one way. And then we just simply screw this side back on. And after putting her all back together, give her a spin. This thing is spinning like a dream now. And it may take a little while for you to spin it continually and kind of let all the grease get where the grease needs to get. And it should be about as good as new. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe.